All right. Welcome everyone who is here in the theater, and welcome to everybody watching on Facebook Live. We are at the Schomburg Center in the American Negro Theater basement of the original 135th Street Library. I'm told that Miss Ida Keeling actually predates the Schomburg building. The American Negro Theater is actually where Sidney Poitier, Harry Belafonte, and Ruby Dee got their starts. So we are sitting in history with an amazing woman and her daughter, of course, Miss Shelley Keeling. By way of introduction, I'm going to read a bio, and then we will jump right in.
Okay.
So Miss Shelley Keeling is the 102-year-old world record holder.
Not yet.
Oh, that's
Ida
Keeling.
Oh, I said Shelley.
Yes.
Excuse me. Soon.
That's what I was saying. Not yet.
She done pushed me down. Oh, sick of you.
Forgive me. Miss Ida, as she's affectionately known throughout her community, isn't your typical runner. In fact, there isn't anything typical about Miss Ida. Her fierce independence helped her through the Depression and the Civil Rights Movement as a single mother to 4 children living in New York City. But her greatest trials were yet to come. Miss Ida's 2 sons were brutally murdered. Justice was never found. Ida felt like she didn't have the strength to carry on, and she couldn't hope anymore. But encouraged by her daughter, Miss Ida put on her first pair of running shoes at the age of 67 and began to chase the paralyzing sorrow from her heart. Running gave light and new energy to Miss Ida, and since her first race nearly 35 years ago, she's kept running and never looked back. Holding the world record for the fastest time in the 60-meter dash for the 95 to 99 age group, Miss Ida is not slowing down. Now she gives us a clear picture of what it means to overcome obstacles. Of course, we're here celebrating her book, Can't Nothing Bring Me Down.
That's right.
And I asked Miss Ida, what would you like the first question to be? And she said, who are you?
I am Ida Keeling. That's right. I'm 102. I'll be 103 in May.
Wow.
And I have no idea of slowing down.
All right.
I know we just keep moving. That's the only way. And don't let other people's glories or whatever they call that's theirs is so good and all. Take care of yourself. You are the most important person to you. You have to stick with yourself. Do eat right, eat for nutrition, not for taste. Eat a lot of fruit, green veggies. Take exercise every day. Thank God every day, all day for your blessings. Without God, you got nothing. So therefore, I just always feel like whatever happened to me, there's always a way out. But where there's a will, there's a way. And believe me to God, I always find a will, and I got my way. So that's the way it is with me.
So I think we just got a prescription for how to live a long life. Are we all taking notes there? I want to break it down a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Can you tell, I know that your mantra is that can nothing bring you down. You've been through all of these obstacles. Where does that come from?
I think it came from way back then and the hard times and days doing without. And we had a saying back there, make do. If you find you haven't got this and you need this, that, and you want, forget about wants. Needs is what counts. Therefore, whatever you had to do, you have to consider what's there and what's left, and how you're going to handle it. All that gives you good brain thought. So therefore, even the younger children in the family, I am the second of 8 children, and there was every day there's chores to be done, even for the younger ones. They got to put their shoes under the bed, or they got to hang up their things, and we have little nails here and there, and hard times, and hard age, and hard living, and using your brain. That's when I say many times the depression was a wonderful thing for plenty people. It woke them up, it gave them thought and how to do things. There was no welfare and stuff to run to, and that was it. You had to stand on your own 2 feet. And when we go to Daddy and ask anything, go stand on your own 2 feet. You have to find a way to stand on your own 2 feet, but what you was going to ask him to help you with. So that was some of the main things that people never think how they're going to work their way out of anything. Take your time, relax, and think, and start moving. Another thing, I always, when I call myself start moving, uh, all kind of those idiocy things, but that breaks you down to, oh, I could have done this or I could have done that to do what I need to do. We had a backyard and the clothesline, and after you wash your clothes, you got to find a way to hang them out yourself. Therefore, Mama was not always available. Well, we found a way. We stood on the chair, or one hang on to the other while the other one reach out and hung up the clothes. Oh, I'm telling you, it was. I think the depression was a wonderful thing. I still think it do, because people take too many things for granted now, and act like all I have to do is get a few dollars and run out and get this, and I'm straight. And all these people with the millions and the trillions and the billions, they got things that they can't buy, that you can't buy with your change purse. And that's life, health, and happiness. They can't buy none of that with their millions and their trillions.
Yes.
So those are the things you look at. So anyway, I just went on from there, went on to school, come home, you do your homework, and you help some of the children behind you that's going to go to school next year. You have to help them out. My sister had a way, she used to do all her homework. Of course, we had to write on the wall, but crayon, not crayon, chalk. And she was spelling these words out because she was going to have a test. And one day I heard my 5-year-old sister walking through the apartment saying, what you was saying, UNIN or something, nutrition. She was spelling out nutrition, and she was spelling out a couple of other words. So I said, well, gee, that what my sister was doing, spelling out loud, that was good for her. I said, I better pay attention too, because I wasn't all that good at spelling. So I started doing the same things. You know, my spelling went up. Anytime you find something that can advance you, it don't cost you nothing, it don't have you bugging nobody, go get it.
And so you talked about some of the struggles
and
and I want you to now share some of your memories from Harlem. What are some of the places that you would visit that you would hang out in when you
Savoy.
The Savoy?
Yeah.
Anybody hang out in the Savoy? Tell me about those days.
On Monday, it had free for the ladies. Well, it was very crowded. Then it was the Charleston. Then they came the sand. Then they came the drag. And then they came the Lindy. And I mean, we had a ball up in there on Mondays. And then we went to, what's that, the Harlem, we used to call it the Harlem Drag, but it was a nice place. And we go in there and sit around, and drinks and stuff was very cheap. But we learned one thing. if we gonna drink, we can't afford to get high. So we take a big glass of tomato juice. It works. We take a big glass of tomato juice before we go to the bar, and we chip in and help each other out. Then they had the song sheets, people singing up and down the street. There was 5 cents. Every everything that was reasonable and cheap was very expensive when you don't have but a little bit. Potatoes was penny a pound. Green cabbage was 5 cents, and bread, a 2-day old bread, was a penny. Everything was dirt cheap.
I can't imagine that.
Yes, huh? Butter was 67 cents a pound. My dad went into a partnership with some friends trying to elevate himself. Well, it was all right the first time, but and we moved into a nice apartment building, and the whole thing. He had a family, so the other two didn't have a family. Thought he was getting most of the money, and there was always the argument. So the partnership broke up, and we did get enough that he did open a grocery store right on 7th Avenue, and but we wound up. It was only 3 rooms in the back, but they were huge. We wound up back at the store. So we went to school. We did what we had to do. Everybody pitched in, and then with the pots, there was lamb stew, beef stew, beans and rice.
Anybody hungry?
Meat, macaroni and cheese, and now and then you find a piece of meat. And with so many, it was cut in so many little pieces that looked like cubes. But it was healthy. And the first thing we got in the morning was cod liver oil. My mother said, I can't afford to be running to the hospital, so you all have to take this cod liver oil. It's good for colds. And she had a big rundown. All we could do was...
My grandmother used to force me to have some cod liver oil.
Yeah.
I want to bring you into the conversation. So Shelley, Cheryl, Keeling. So I want to go back to when you approached your mother with this idea to start running, right? If you could take us through what was going on at the time and what made you think that this would be helpful.
So what was going on was a tragic event. I had 2 brothers, and one they were not children. They were both murdered. That is how it went, and they were murdered, one first, and then 2 years 8 months later the other one. So, and these were boys that had done. One had done 2 tours in the Navy. My second brother had done a tour, 2 tours in the Army. So they were not children. They were abroad, and one brother started using drugs when he was abroad. That was the oldest brother, and then so when he returned, he came back with the habit, and that drugs are always accompanied by violence, and that drug life brought the violence with it. So as a part of that life, that brother, he was, I think it's in the book, that brother was hung. And then 2 years, 8 months later, the second brother, he was trying to help out the first brother. And back then, if you were an addict and you brought a new person with you to take a shot with, you could get your shot for free. So sometimes my second brother would go with my oldest, but they were really good friends. So then the second brother, it was another tragedy, and he was beaten to death with a bat in the street. So that was 2 years, 8 months later. It was like we were just kind of getting used to the idea that the first brother had been murdered, and then the second brother. So after that, Mommy was sinking so fast, and I was just watching her like disappear inside herself. And so I went to her and I said, Mom, I want you to do this race with me. I told her it was a mini run. And people seemed astonished that I put my mother in her first race,
Yeah.
a 5K, which is 3.1 miles, when she was 67 years old. And she got in the race, she ran it, she ran that race, she finished. And that started her change of life. That she said that when she finished, she felt that a whole burden had been lifted off of her, that she came up like out of a really dark hole. So once I saw that, it was on. You know, we were racing like every week. We would do races. So and that's Mommy's story as to how she started running, and I thought it could help. I chose that because I had used running myself when I had been at a job. It was a great job. I was clerking for the judge, State Supreme Court, New York County, but I just didn't like it. I didn't like the criminal justice system. I didn't find anything fair about it. I had came out of an era where when you don't like something, you change it. I'm a '60s girl, so you had when I was going into college, it was Roe versus Wade, the Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam War, so the Stonewall. So it was all of that, and I felt in that criminal justice system where I had to go every morning and stay the whole day, that I was not going to be able to affect any change. And for me, that was really distressing. So I started running on my lunch hour. And then when I realized one morning I got up, I was late. I was like, oh, I got to get to work. I have to run. And when I said that to myself, I mean, I was really going into work to get that run at lunch hour. I was looking so forward to it. That's when I knew that, I didn't need to be on that job anymore. So I knew that Mama didn't need to be in that space anymore. It was the only thing that I knew of that was life-changing. It could take away so much of the distress. Right. And that is exactly what it did for her.
Absolutely. I know that we have runners watching because I know folks from Harlem Run are watching, and my own story also comes from using running to get through depression. Oh, good. But I want to know, what did you think when she said to you, you're going to run a 5K?
I didn't know what a 5K was. But she said it was going to be a mini run. So I said, she looks so sad. I can't, I said, I done lost two. I don't want no sad looking child hanging around. Anyway, I went on the run. But while I was running, I was feeling strength. That's why I say exercise, that's it. I was feeling stronger. I felt like I was coming up out of a hole, and I was catching my breath good, and I was saying to myself, this is it, and I just kept on, and then went and joined track and field, and that was my next big thing.
Right. In the book, you say, when I run, I feel relaxed and like I'm out with the wind.
Yeah, that's right.
And you said the best medicine in the world is exercise and prayers. I want to go back to, you were talking about diet, and I have so many questions from my friends. They want to know exactly what you eat, but they also want to know about the Hennessy drinking, because I know they're drinking.
Well, Hennessy, well, this doctor, in 1972, I had what you call poor circulation. So he said, I'm going to put you on some Hennessy. I didn't even know what Hennessy was. So, okay, I got the Hennessy, and he didn't tell me how much or how long, so I'm still on it.
And you're still here.
Yes, right. But another thing, I found out I don't bury myself in nothing. So I don't drink every day. And if I'm angry, I don't drink. Or if I'm upset, I don't drink. Because that's sort of from some kind of a habit, or I'm mad now, so I'll go take a drink. Before you know it, you're nothing but a drunk. That's nowhere in my life. I got a bottle of Hennessy right now sitting on my window. It will last me, I would say, at least a month.
It's a big bottle.
Yeah.
Okay, so you start running. You're loving the experience of it, and you're overcoming your depression.
Yes.
How did you then come to be a world record holder?
Oh, that was the shock to me. So I went on I think it was 2008. I went on my run, and I was just going real fast. And I beat my own records. And being of the age that I was, here come the reporters. They knock on your door for everything. Anyway, I decided that I would just keep on running. And then I had another knock. Then I started having calls on the phone. Oh, how do you do it? I said, just keep moving. So I started going to the gym over at the Armory. That's another home of mine that I love. Go in there and exercise and do what I had to do. Then I joined in the housing near where I live. The Lennox Terrace. That went over there to continue on. Then I moved out of the neighborhood and been gone all these years and come back. And my children was raised in the St. Nicholas houses, and I found there they got the Kennedy Annex, so I belong over there now. So I just like moving. Just keep going. You can't mope and sit around. It don't work. You got to keep your mind going, and if you're going out, where you're going, how long you're going to be, and all that. And in terms of food, we had in the mornings like oats and prunes. And when we come from school, we had the Johnny cakes until dinner was ready. Either a big pot of beef stew or lamb stew. It was always big pots. So that's the way it was. And on the weekend, then we had like pot roast, and on Sunday we had like fish and cereal or something along with the fish. And you had to there's where to make do come in.
Right.
And with all those children, if you don't have enough, you get all what was left over, if it was any, and you make do with what you got, or you just make another pot of cereal, because that's what most people had.
Right.
Cereal and grits and all that. And it worked. You had a stomach full. A stomach full have no complaints. So we kept our stomach full. At least the parents did.
Shelley, can I ask you, when you approached your mother with this idea, you had no idea that she was going to become an international, famous success that everybody's looking up to. So what has it been like taking her to these competitions and watching her set these records? What does that mean for you?
Work.
Okay, that's the honesty.
Yeah, it is work, and from the standpoint that we do have to train,
Right.
etc. And so, but the one thing I find when I'm at a race with Mother, that 2008, I took her with me to France, and that was the first world record she set. And what I learned, I really learned how tough my mother is. I mean, she's still. I've had her all my life. And she is still astounds me. She's remarkable. I mean, she's my rock. But I learn from her every day that I can watch her. I can see, what she brings to a situation to solve it. She's not generally bringing problems. She has a few aches and pains, but she's never has problems. So when I took her to France, so we had that long flight. She was 92 years old. We had a long flight. I decided at the last minute to bring her. And when we were in Clermont-Ferrand, but Clermont-Ferrand was full because that's where the competition was. So we had to stay 4 hours away in Lyon. But the morning of the race, Mama got up. She got on that train. We had to take a 4-hour train ride to Lyon. She nodded the whole way. Got her rest in. When they came to get her for females, I think she ran with other females from like the Ukraine and Russia, and then there was I don't remember, Barcelona. So she was on the line, but those women were younger than she was. So she finished behind them, which is expected, but that was still that was her first world record. That was in, she ran 60 meters indoors. I wasn't looking for a world, I wasn't looking for a world record. I was just saying this would be a good experience for Mother. So she did. She went, she napped, she ran, she set a world record. And this is kind of, how Mother is. It's like, go with the flow. If this is happening, you make the adjustments. Don't expect the situation to adjust to you. You have to make those adjustments, and that's always how we've lived. So that's that make-do attitude. That's really what it is. Your things are not always going to be ideal. They are rarely ideal. So you're constantly making those adjustments, and that's so no, I never expected that. But once she got one, I said, well, look, let's just see
Sky's
what
the
else
limit.
we can do. Let's see what else we can do. So now, but one thing, it's tougher for me to watch my mother race.
Really?
Than it is watching when my son was racing. It's harder for me because that 100 meters or that 60 meters, it feels like a lifetime. Like I'm taking every step with her because, what if she stumbles? What if something happens? So it's just like I'm holding my breath while she's running.
Speaking of, you mentioned to me that just last year she fractured her femur.
That's correct.
And so I want you to speak to that, and then I'll ask you, Miss Ida. But things do happen,
yes.
Right? So she fractured her femur about a year ago. She fell in the house,
yes.
Was treated at Harlem Hospital, and had an incredible recovery. In 48 hours, she was back on her feet.
That's right.
And setting a world record a year later.
That's right.
But tell me, what was that like when your mother fell and you were in the home?
Oh, it was
scary.
It was so frightening because we had the first alert, but so Mom, she's, thank God we had moved into a brownstone. Mommy's downstairs, I'm upstairs. So when she fell, she scooted herself back into the room, and she wanted to press the first alert button, but she pulled it down off the table, and that disconnected it. So she couldn't make the call, but it has a little beep on it. So I heard the continuous beep, like beep, 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 and I thought, what is that? So I came out from upstairs. There's no locked door between us. So I looked down the stairs. I could see her 2 little feet sitting that were on the floor, and I thought, oh, no. So I went down. I picked her up. I put her back in the bed. And I mean, I probably shouldn't have moved her, but it seemed like it worked out all right. But I just lifted her from the floor. I put her in the bed. I called 911. And for me, all I could think was that saying that you always hear for older people, just don't fall. The doctor would always say that to Mother. Dr. Sander would say, just don't fall. And then there she was on the floor. So I called 911. They came, they took her to the hospital, took her to Harlem. We had an incredible physician, Dr. McLeland, and another runner runs the, you probably know Dennis Brown. Yes, he's a physician. He runs the emergency room. So she was like, everybody was coming up to see Mother, but I never thought I would be sitting Valentine's Day in the hospital next to Mother, because she was in there for almost close to a month. But most of that was rehab. So they gave her really intense, high-quality rehab, hour and a half in the morning, hour and a half in the afternoon, and then I would visit her in the evening. But they had her on her feet in 2 days.
Wow.
When she left the hospital, it was less than 4 weeks, she had the walker, which she had never had before. But, she had to transition back into the home, and that was the big task. But she did. She's a champion. I'm telling you.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I've never been in the hospital that long in my life. Ugh.
But a year later, you competed.
I was fine.
And set another world record.
Like 1 year later. That's right.
Well, I feel like since there's no competition, I'm just chasing myself. That's it. That's what's happening.
What is your greatest accomplishment, do you feel?
My greatest accomplishment, I think that was my greatest accomplishment because as I got older, I got better.
Mm.
And as I got older, I feel I'm not going to stop. I'm going to get better yet.
Mm.
So that's it. Now I feel like the queen of goodies.
And I asked you this prior to getting started. What do you fear? Do you have any fears?
No, it's no need of fearing anything. There's people just get up and go out to go for a walk. Here come the car around the corner and knock them down. They wasn't fearing that.
Mm.
It just happened. So I don't fear anything. I'd be maybe a little, if something is going to happen and you can feel something is going to happen, that's another story. You'd be more concerned about where you're going and what you're doing and what you're doing in the apartment since you feel something is wrong. But mostly, if something is wrong, sometimes, especially if you got a big family, maybe one of the elders is very sick, or maybe somebody just passed off with heart trouble or something. That's it. But I just say my prayers every day and thank God for His blessings, and that's all. I just keep moving. You gotta keep moving. You just can't sit and say, "Oh well, I don't feel like doing this, doing that." Get the heck up and do it. Yeah, that's all.
I love your attitude, and I love also that was part of your activism.
Yeah.
During the civil rights movement, and it seems like a very obvious connection that if something is wrong, do something about it.
That's right.
Right? If you could give advice to millennials like me, people living in the world now, what would you say about?
I would say, love yourself, do what you need to do, not what you want to do. And you know right from wrong, good from bad, and filth from dirt. And you can leave them last three. Just stick with the best things and do what's best for you. And if you're onto something good, another thing, if you're in school, I went to work in the factory and I said, well, gee, things is moving up. So I went to night school in the factory and had 2 children.
Wow, so
as much education.
Work.
Yes, right. And if you're in a college and you feel you can work your way in, you can get a job in there just by volunteering your services, you know. And you'll have a job for lifetime. That's Montel Williams. I got that from his sister.
Incredible.
His sister, yes. She was going to college, so it was a long distance way home. So she said, well, maybe I'll take a part-time job for the summer. So she took a part-time job. Then after graduation, she applied there for work and got it, and has already retired from there. I said, well, that's a good idea. You're right. That's right. You're right where in the right place and helping you out. You're moving on up. Stay up there and help somebody else to come up. You have to think for yourself.
Shelley, when the opportunity for a book came, for the book? Were you nervous or hesitant about the story? What were your thoughts around your mother having a book come out on her life?
I thought it would be a good idea. I think she has a part to her life that every segment of society would be able to relate to. I think the struggle, now we have all of these movements. You know, there's the civil rights movement, there's the Me Too movement, there are all these movements, but throughout Mother's life, she has had to face those things without the support of a movement. You know, like the sexual harassment on the job, like the and just the racism, the violence, the promises from in relationships. So all of those things are things that various segments of the population can relate to. So I thought she had a story that was worth telling, and that really the running and setting world records was something that was extra. You know, had she never run, you know, she has a big story. But I think that people from her era, many of them have this same story. Her mother's story is not that unusual. So many times you hear people her age say they came from humble beginnings and they worked their way up to where they are, and so it's not it's not that unusual. But I think that because you know, Granddaddy came here as he was an immigrant from Anagata, and then you know the story, the example that he set for them, I think was very important. But that again is just a part of everyone else's story too. Everyone that has a parent that they look to, that they took that message away. You know, she says every on your own 2 feet. Granddaddy used to say every tub on its own bottom, because the tubs had feet then. You know, so he would say every tub on its own bottom. So but that she can express this in a book, I think it's a blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. So many messages to learn from that. When you think of the future of running for her, how do you pick what's next?
Actually, you're going to move to weightlifting.
Yeah? Some CrossFit?
Oh, well.
I have to for me, it's always, Mother, how do you feel? That day she raced, up to the last minute, I was saying, Mama, how you feel? You know, you feel okay. If she doesn't feel like she can run anymore, I mean, I will keep training her. We will keep working at it. We will always set another goal. On the day that she is to execute that goal, if she's not up to it, we just don't run it. That's all. You know, I remember she told Dr. Sander, who many people know from the running world, he was our physician, and the late Dr. Sander. And when Mommy was like 99, she said, I think this is going to be my last race. He said, why? It's nothing wrong with you. And that's kind of how I feel. You know, if you're okay and you can do it, then this is good. But weightlifting, for those of us who pass, well, your body starts its long downhill drop at about 22, I hate to say.
Oh, wow.
But by like 40, you really need to start taking hold. And the weight work is really good. Even for people that want to lose weight, the weight work is good because the muscle helps to burn the fat. But the weight work is what gives you that strength. It's it helps keep your bones dense. It keeps your muscles strong. The best thing, like the best friend to a strong spine is the strong muscles that are around it. So just can be light weights. And Mama has, your weights are what, 3 pounds? Or how much? Your weights are 3 pounds, right?
82.
No. Your weights. How much are your
My
weights?
weights?
Your weights. Your weights.
Oh,
weights.
my weights.
Yes.
The 3 pounds.
3 pounds. That's right. Yeah. So I said 82. She must have been weightlifting already.
Right.
Sneaking character for my weights. Yeah.
I got the weights out.
And with the training plans, because I imagine there are not too many folks in this age group training, how do you tailor that kind of training? As an athlete myself, I think of the plans, and it's hard to find something that's individualized, but that must be even more difficult for a 102-year-old. What is the training like?
It's constantly tweaking because, you know, Mother's training is constantly about a tweak. So, for instance, if there are weeks that she doesn't want meat, so in those weeks when I fix a protein drink, I make sure she drinks it with me too. If sometimes her balance is off, it has to do with her ears. Sometimes her balance is off, then I make sure she does more squats. So it's like which is why I love having her where I can see her all of the time, you know, and I can check on her. And if I see her that if she's off balance, I can say, Mama, you should go do some squats, which she will go. She's a very good, she's very coachable.
Okay.
She's a good student.
And Miss Ida, what is training like? What has it been like for you?
Fine. It was just one of those things that you go in there and do the best you can, or you try another way if that way doesn't satisfy you. But we used to run in the park and all that kind of stuff as children, and jump rope and do a whole lot of things, and running and racing and running against each other and stuff like that. That was our only exercise because we didn't have too many parks in the neighborhood. And when I went to, when I first started working in the factory, I was almost 19, and they didn't have any, unions and stuff like that, and people just took advantage. So I made $6 a week when I was working in the factory, and the car fare was 5 cents, and some of the food like the cabbage and potatoes and all that stuff was cheap. And you only had 5 cents. You walk where you was going. You did plenty walking, believe me.
So even before you became the runner that you are.
Yes. You have a whole lot of training walking. Say, oh, it's a short walk. When your legs get tired, that ain't no short walking. So that's where it's at. But we survived, and I think it made most people strong. And then they had these unions and union fights and all that kind of stuff. But it brought on a whole lot of things that we got today that they're still advancing.
Right.
So I think it was good.
Absolutely.
And I wouldn't want to go back there, though. And things are much better here, but it can be improved by not just trying to get so much for yourself instead of putting it where you're supposed to put it with the people.
Right.
Like this mess on the TV right now.
Right.
So that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just want to encourage folks who are watching at home, send in questions. We'll be getting to questions and folks here in the audience as well. I wonder, I guess I'm thinking about the idea of, I always say that running is a vehicle for social change, right? And Shelley, I want to go back to you in your own running journey. We touched about it just briefly, but you also coach other people, right? And how do you bring that perspective to the coaching that you do?
I think I had to learn it first, which I did. When you compete internationally, everyone gets on the line. It's not, okay, this is Israel, and this is Pakistan, or this is England, and this is Ireland. You know, it does. Any of the factions that are having any conflict, everyone goes to that line. We are all there for the same reason, and so it makes a camaraderie that you don't find just in the ordinary political arena. So, and I think that once learned, sometimes people come to the sport with that attitude. I spent many years at Fieldston. So Fieldston is called Ethical Culture Fieldston School. So those children came with a particular mindset. But I think that when children have differences, that there's always a way to bridge that gap with sports. It just always is. I think there was one study where there were two gangs, and they mixed the teams, and they all competed against each other. It's healthy. You feel productive, and I think that is a good solution for many factors that are at conflict with each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, again, in my own journey, that's really what I found, that it opens a space for a conversation, and then it unites people in a way that nothing else really has the ability to. Do you compete yourself as well?
Sure.
Yeah?
I've left the country to compete every year except last year. For the last, since probably 1993. So I've competed in 93 was Japan. Okay. Then I was.
And what is your event?
It changes. You know, we get older. we try to, we try to hold on. But so Hurdles.
Okay.
Hurdles and the 400 meter, which is a quarter mile. The 800 is a half mile. And then the 400 meter hurdles, which is 10 hurdles around a 400 meter track. I was never really a sprinter.
Okay.
Like you, not like you,
Well,
like the girls that sprint. But, but you know, as you know, I've done less hurdling. But the funny thing is too that it's like the sport recognizes that we are aging. So when we originally run 400 meters with hurdles, by the time you turn 50, they shorten it to 300 meters. So now you're back with maybe the high schools. And then by the time you turn 60, they lower the 30 inches to like 27 inches. So now you're back with junior high school. But still, if you can get out there and do it, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
So those are my events. And then I do, you know, some of the distance work, 5K, 10K. Yeah, that's how I started. My first race was my first competitive race was the New Harlem 10K race.
Oh, wow.
That
Okay.
was back in, I think, 81.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's worth mentioning that we originally met actually when I saw Miss Ida in the New York Times. And I reached out to the person who wrote the article, who connected me with Shelley. And both of you attended our Harlem 1 miler event. And at the time, you were jump roping through the competition. What I loved about that is, Miss Ida, you led us through a stretch, a dance, a workout. That was just incredible for the community. And I want to thank you because I think your story really does resonate with so many folks, from the little kids that were present to older adults who sometimes set these boundaries for themselves of what's possible, right? And the story is all about pushing past those perceived boundaries, right? Yeah.
Well,
I thought you were forgive me. And so I think that's I mean, I just think it's a really incredible way to send that message through sport, and I want to thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, I get the children and even older people come up and say, "Gee, you're wonderful." I love when the children, especially the teenagers, come up and say, "Gee, that was remarkable. I want to be like you one day." I say, "Keep moving." That's right. So it's just wonderful to me to feel that I have encouraged and will always be an encourager of people, babies, and everything. Because babies, you can catch them even remarkable, you know.
Right.
You stand them up a little and you jerk them up a little,
Mama torches baby. I
have some questions from the audience.
Oh,
Who were your heroes growing up, and why?
Joe Louis, and who was that? Teachers and professors, and books of encouragement have always been something for me. And the thing, they were my teachers and lawyers and doctors. They are my encouragements because they made it already. And if I can watch them or read upon them and see what they do, maybe something in there I'm missing that can give me a pull up. So those are my encouragements. And people like your own brothers and sisters that's trying to do their best and look like they got especially the boys. They always got the downfall. You just going down there, what's the matter with you? Just keep going. Climb the ladder. Oh, go on, Ida.
Okay.
But they worked out, the family worked out just fine. It really did.
Do you want to see?
There is
was going to say you may have to bring
in phase.
you have to bring her in. Sometime.
What happened?
Yeah.
It's-
Oh,
and I wanted to ask you as well,
excuse
though, who
me.
are some of-
I got run away like the train.
I'm asking the same question to you. Who are some of your heroes and why?
So as a child, I would say I just adored Wilma Rudolph. She was
She was, yes, she
Althea
was.
Gibson.
I tell you, all
And
them
I'm not
great folks.
I'm not sure why I chose athletes. Maybe because they were visible. You know, they we to us. I can't remember admiring a scientist, unfortunately, but I do. I would say Wilma Rudolph. I was heartbroken the day a woman named Marilyn White beat her, but she that was just that one race. Wilma came back and took it again, and I think she still holds some one or two records that have never been broken. And I think so. That was as a child. I would say that.
Our next question for Miss Ida is very specific about your nutrition plan, and maybe Shelley, you can help as well. The amount of calories. Is it a plant-based diet? What exactly does it look like that you eat through the day?
Well, my diet, I look for all the green vegetables. A lot of veggies are good. A whole lot of greasy meat, forget it. Just get the steamed or broiled, or if it's fried, just slightly. But I'm not into a whole lot of meat, but I do eat meat.
She does. She's a meat eater. It's not.
I eat pork chops, lamb chops, chicken, turkey. I get my meats now. I couldn't get them back then.
Yeah, she usually will take her large meal in the morning.
Okay.
Yes.
So she'll, like, if there's meat, like, and she does. She likes bacon, sausage. She'll take her heavy meal in the morning. She eats a lot of vegetables, and then and a lot of fruits. If it's she not we everything that we eat is the bread is whole wheat, the pasta is whole wheat. I've been a vegetarian since 1970, so I don't take any meat or fish or chicken. And then I just recently in the last year left the dairy also. So I have a plant-based diet, but Mom. She doesn't eat a lot. She eats small amounts, and she'll eat small amounts like throughout the day. And I think that's helpful too because it keeps her metabolism going. Because she only weighs like 83 pounds, but and we both. This is a confession. We both love sweets.
Okay.
So I say we don't eat white flour or white
but
sugar.
you don't overdo
do
it.
Get don't overdo it. But we do get them when we buy certain sweets.
Okay. A question from the audience. There's so many youth suffering from depression today. What advice would you offer to motivate them?
People suffering from depression.
Children.
Well, sometimes that's up to how they're being raised. If they're suffering from depression, a child is not supposed to be suffering from depression. Someone's supposed to be there that love them enough that they're relieved. They feel relieved. I can't see a child suffering from depression unless it's being abused or they're being neglected. That's the only thing I can see a child suffering from depression, because I had children and I came through a large family and we didn't have none of that kind of stuff going on unless the person was just mean and evil and people avoided them. So that was their depression. They caused that on themselves.
But if the running is because of, we know, the endorphins. So if a child, if it's like a teenager, if they can find a team, join a team. If they can just put, there's real estate everywhere. All you need to run is a pair of sneakers, and just put those sneakers on. I would say, and because it does physically, what happens to you when you run can be very helpful. And that's for the depression as well as it would be for the children they love to call hyperactive. They tell a child, sit down, be quiet. The two things a child does not want to do is sit down and be quiet. And so it's with my son, with me, with mother also, when I was young, they told her I moved around too much and gave her some medicine, which she promptly threw in the incinerator. My son has, we all have, I think it's the little gene or something. But we just, we move around a lot. But they said that he had ADD or something. So anywhere my son was in school, I was in that school. If they didn't have a track team, I put one in there. And the administration was always happy to have me come in because I wasn't looking for a job. I wasn't asking for money, and I was a professional. So for me to be able to go in and say, look, just all you have to do is say, yes, I'll take this school, I'll take this group, I'll do. So I made sure that he had a track team wherever he was, and that made the difference for him. He would sleep. He could pay more attention. So if people see that, if they can maybe get the child on a little league team or something like that, it's very helpful.
Yeah. But you know that today is much better than it was years ago. Like people had to go to work and leave the child here, there, or hither or yonder. It was very tough on the child. Then the mother come home all tired and worn out and don't pay no attention to what's going on. Well, what they got today, they even got 3-year-olds going into the, what you call?
Pre-K.
The daycare centers. That's very good. I even saw a college not far from me called Infant College. Yeah, I said, I guess next they're going in the belly.
Fetus college.
We have another audience question. Do you have joint pain?
Joint pains, of course. I got pains in all these 6 fingers and my knees, my hips, my toes. I got arthritis so bad. It's something else. I get up and take my cod liver oil, fresh lemon, and ginger, and what was that other thing I
Apple
put?
Cider vinegar.
Lemon and ginger and the thing, put together and just drink it all day long. It's good for you. The lemon is very good for colds and stuff. Ginger is good for the gas, and even the vinegar that they make up, it's good for pain. We always had vinegar from far back as I can remember for pain. If you get hurt, it saturates a piece of cloth in some vinegar and wrap it in your feet, and you sit down a while, the next day you're fine. So now you just take mild doses on an empty stomach first. And I tried not to leave out anything that my body needs. So that's the way I do mine. That's the way it is, especially my cod liver oil. And you can also rub like olive oil or any painkillers before you go to bed, and stretch and bend. And I do my fingers like this, even though they hurt all up in here. See, they're not nice to look at. But the toes is no better. But I stand on them a lot. I kick my feet out a lot and all that, and it works.
I love that the theme has been...
So you got attention over there.
The theme has been do what you have to, not what you want to.
That's
sometimes it's going to hurt. Sometimes it's going to be sad, sorrowful.
That's right.
But if you're here on this earth, keep moving.
That's right.
Thank you,
That's
Miss
what you're
Ida.
here for. You came in this world moving. It didn't say stop. Keep moving.
Thank you to the audience for the questions, for your participation, and thank you to the Facebook Live community. Thank you to the Schomburg. The book is available for sale.
Here. And I hope I have inspired every one of you in some kind of way.
Let's go for a walk.
Huh?
Yeah, we can.
There's some of my
Thank you, Miss Ida.
You're quite welcome.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great. So,
thank you very much. Thank you.
Don't let yourself down.